Today was the day he was dreading. He knew they were going to be extremely busy, and quite frankly, he wanted to call out, seeing as he was already late. His thoughts were briefly distracted by his black tabby, quietly pawing at his legs, ready for its breakfast. He made sure to fill up its bowl before he dashed out the door, returning twice to grab whatever he forgot the first few times, and he was off. He breathed a sigh of relief as the last customer left. It had been the best sales day of the year, and they were obviously gonna celebrate. He had been contemplating going on home, but he needed to unwind too. He had no serious obligations the next day, so he could stay out late as he wanted. So when they asked, he happily agreed to go with them. He couldn't open his eyes. He was barely conscious as it was. He slapped lazily around until he managed to shut the alarm off before he rolled onto his stomach and buried his face in his pillow. The door creaked as his black tabby walked in and jumped onto his back, where it curled up close to his head. The hot breath in his ear lulled him back to sleep. The doorbell continued to ring. He crawled out of bed and made his way to the front door. It was his next-door neighbor, a kind woman in her late 70s, who still worked. She was in her business suit, holding a trash bag. "Oh, did I wake you up? I thought you were usually up by now." "I usually am," he said groggily, "but they let me have today off." "Well, I hate to come bearing such bad news so early in the morning," she said, patting his hand, "but I ran over your dear tabby last night when I got home. I came straight over to tell you, but you weren't home." He stared at her for a few seconds before their silence was broken by its footsteps. You've heard it all before, stories of that one depressed, lonely, deprived teenager. The one that finds herself befallen by unspeakable tragedy at the cruel hands of her longtime oppressor. It's become so cliché that you may have even heard the acknowledgement of its overuse elsewhere. This image is only so popular because we are so plentiful. We come from all walks of life, all nationalities, all social statuses. We are the ones whose minds are one with the darkness they fear. The ones whose thoughts are so loud and intense in their heads, they find them whispering them aloud, speaking silent words of perpetual black into the dead night before us, to be carried by the night's chill into utter obscurity, projecting our madness to the full moon, that we may carry some sanity within ourselves, but always to no avail. Perhaps that is all I do now. Speak words into the silent midnight so pitch black that they meld into it, only to find the company of other deranged minds, whispering the same maddened thoughts, never to meet through the stone barriers of shyness. Enough of this, however. You want to hear tales of monsters, curses, tragedy, spirits. Those who hunger for such anomalies of the abyss must have enough dark thoughts within themselves. You don't need mine as well. In my ghetto, inner city school kids exchange whispers of an old myth passed down from the upperclassmen, mostly just to scare the freshmen or act like they're involved with their school. Either way, it goes as this. A few years back, there was a young freshman girl who was eager to begin her glorious high school year. She would spend every hour of night during the week preluding the start of the new school year, dreaming, pondering, and inquiring the wondrous things to come. No more asinine busy work. The next 4 years would dictate where the rest of her life was headed. Then the first week came. It went perfectly, better than she had imagined during those anxious, hopeful nights. Everybody adored her. Her classes were mild and challenging. It was cruel, as if fate had deemed she would live her dream for a time as a mere jest, just to show her what she was missing, to show her what she would be missing for the rest of eternity. She woke up after a relaxing weekend alone. She could feel joy and anticipation dancing in her young heart. She was so oblivious, so confident, so strong. Alas, it would not be enough. Her mom drove her to school as she did every day. They were one turn away as a smile cracked on her face. A smile that would be warped by evil odds, a face twisted by the devil's cruel fire, a face that would drag many others with her into the burning abyss. What were the odds? A large truck smashed into the passenger side where she was sitting as they began to make the turn, crumbling the feeble metal structure into a steel tomb. The engine began to catch fire, and smoke began to fill her lungs. She could see through the shattered glass, the broken image of a desperate mother, smashing her fist into the steel to free her, with a man behind her on the phone. Her seat had curved, and the door was smashed like tin foil. Only one opening revealed itself in this burning prison. It was a crack in the glass, by the corner of the windshield. She knew that she should stay idle. The smoke would choke her out, and that was no way she wanted to die. She reached out and touched glass, only to rear back in pain. The glass was searing hot, parts of it even melting from the fire. She knew what she had to do. The image of her school and her future infuriated her with an inhuman zeal. She forced her mouth onto the opening and breathed the fresh air, all pain ignored. Her lips peeled back with the heat like plastic to a match. Her hair singed and dissipated. Her flesh warped and cauterized in place like human clay. Several minutes passed in this agonizing state, until through the broken windshield, red lights flashed, and sirens sounded over her mother's hysterical cries from watching her beautiful daughter changed into this monster just to survive. She spent 3 blind bitter months in the hospital, the white gauze making her hideous transformation. Then the day came. The mask was taken off, though nobody could find the appropriate reaction. Her lips were charred black outlines for her melted teeth. Her lower jaw seemed almost unhinged. Perhaps worst of all was that look of pure bitter sorrow and spite when she herself saw what she was. She refused to speak a word, not that it was easy without proper lips or a functioning lower jaw. She spent the next miserable month in her room, unfit to return to school. She began diving deep into the internet. Perhaps a sick part of her wanted to see its dark underside, just to prove to herself she was not the only one. She eventually couldn't take it. She didn't want to be seen. She couldn't be seen. She logged onto the Wikipedia, created a blank page, and began furiously typing all her spite, all her hate, pouring her heart, channeling her very soul into that page. The story goes that once she had poured all of her soul into that page, she had no reason to stay anchored to her broken body. She parted before she could post. That page remained blank for some time. The students then fabricated the myth that should you stare into that blank page for too long, she will suck your soul into it with hers. This is that page. Now you might ask yourself, why am I going here knowing this terrible myth? Am I some kind of skeptic, trying to give you a scare? No, I'm here because I'm alone. Because here, I have someone like me, someone to whisper dark nothings into abyssal silence with. I'll be joining her soon, and you'll be joining us. We dark-minded people should stick together. Misery loves company, and with each stolen soul, this abyss becomes that much less of a void. I do apologize for ruining this page's blank reputation, by the way. You are dark-minded like us. It's time you tragically joined us in our little blackness. Of all these pages to choose from, what are the odds? I was in my bedroom as usual, just sitting there on my old dirty bed, until I felt a disturbance within myself. It started with curiosity and then ended with fear and worry. This strange sensation lasted for about roughly 10 minutes until I decided to get out of bed and reassure myself that there was nothing to be worried about. I searched my entire house, the dirty old bathroom and its untidy drawers, my clean kitchen and the nice tidy cupboards. The kitchen is the only thing I kept clean due to my passion for cooking. I've always enjoyed cooking ever since my mother first taught me when I was a child. I still remember it to this day. She showed me how to cook spaghetti and how to make homemade bologna sauce. Ever since that day, I began to experiment with food and try and come up with new recipes. Anyway, I digress. As I finished searching through my house, in every nook and cranny, I decided that it would be a good idea to go back to bed. My wife was fast asleep. She always gets lots of sleep. I checked the time, 6 a.m. Great. Another late night. This routine of feeling strange and searching my house has been going on for almost 4 weeks now. I don't know what started it. Something just doesn't seem right, as if there's something here. I hope it gets better. I haven't slept in weeks. That next day, I got out of bed and went out. I would have gotten ready, but I didn't though. What's the point anymore? No one's gonna notice. As I walked out of my front door, I began to walk down the street. I looked around and saw the battered, rotten old houses, boarded up doors and windows, and I began to remember my friends who used to live there. It's been a long time. What year is it anymore? I said to myself. I really lost it recently. I can't even remember what year it is. After a day of strolling through the streets and thinking of memories past, I decided to go back home. I went into my filthy old house and planked myself onto the couch. I looked across and saw my wife sitting there, sobbing. She's been this way ever since I woke up about 4 weeks ago with that strange sensation I spoke about. We've never spoken since. She sometimes stares at me, sighs, and then looks away. Later that night, as I restlessly paced around my old bedroom, I had that strange feeling as per usual, and I began to search my house to reassure myself, like I usually do, until I found it. The thing that was making me the way I feel the way I do every night. It was my uncle standing there looking at me with happiness. I uttered, Uncle, you've been dead for years." He looked at me with astonishment and said, "I could say the same to you."